Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 DSA State of Downtown event. I'm Scott Redman. I'm the CEO of Sullivan Construction. We're a proud DSA member and this year's entertainment sponsor. For the last 75 years, we have had the opportunity at Sullivan to work with many DSA members in creating some of the most iconic places in our city. Like you, we're concerned about the economy of Seattle. We're concerned about the recovery that's needed. And we're going to spend a lot of time in today's event talking about both. One of the areas of the economy that's been hit most hard is our beloved local live music scene. For 11 months, there's been no live music in Seattle, something that's core to our brand and hard for many of us to imagine. We've seen venues across the city and across the state shuttered for the last 11 months and really struggling as a result. There was a campaign launched middle of the year called Keep Music Live. And together we've raised money from about 2,500 folks and getting ready to issue grants this month to help all those live music venues across our state make it to the other side of this pandemic. And speaking of live music venues, I'm standing here in what will be the new Crocodile at the corner of First and Wall. It's under construction today, but we thought we'd give you a chance to get a glimpse inside and to hear from Seattle's own the Black Tones with their song, Where Do We Go Now?
Thank you to the Blacktones, and welcome to the DSA's 2021 State of Downtown. Recovery starts here. I'm Kairos 7 anchor Monique Minglavin, and I'm very happy to be with you today. We're coming to you from the iconic Smith Tower, a notable symbol of Seattle's resilience. This building was once the tallest skyscraper on the West Coast. It opened on July 4th, 1914. It endured the 1918 pandemic and economic depressions and recessions. It has adapted, it has persevered. Now, much like this grand building, great cities are often labeled as having good bones. They have fundamental strengths that endure, and that is certainly the case for downtown Seattle. Every year, DSA holds this event to examine the health of downtown's economy, the role downtown plays in driving the city and the region forward, and the opportunities ahead. Just 1 year ago, DSA was talking about how downtown Seattle was outperforming city centers across the country. Then just 1 month later, we became the first urban core to feel the brunt of the pandemic. As the economic engine of our region, recovery truly starts here in downtown Seattle. At State of Downtown events in the past, you've been presented with leading national perspectives on issues we may be facing here at home. Well, this year, with so many of our economic sectors facing unique challenges, DSA is going to focus on local industry leaders. So we'll hear from former Seattle Chief of Police Carmen Best, the CEO of Arts Fund Michael Greer, Visit Seattle President and CEO Tom Norwalk, Nordstrom's President of Stores Jamie Nordstrom, Seattle Kraken CEO Todd Leiweke, Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkin, and City of Seattle's Director for Recovery Pamela Banks, and designer and strategist Surya Vanka. Different perspectives from different sectors that will all play a role in Seattle's recovery. And you'll hear from DSA leadership on the path forward during an in-depth interview with DSA President and CEO John Scholes. This event is made possible with generous support from many members. And for more on that and additional perspective, I'm joined by DSA Board of Directors Chair Marilyn Boss, West Regional Executive, Zurich, North America.
Thanks, Monique. That opening video really set the mood for us today. Definitely some signs of hope there. I think we're all looking forward to when we can fully reopen and fully embrace city life again. While we obviously wish we could be with you in person this year, we're grateful that 1,200 of you are joining us virtually. Thank you for taking time to be with us. And thanks to Unico Properties and Unico CEO and DSA board member, Quentin Kurau, for allowing us to bring you this event from the Smith Tower, as well as Columbia Hospitality for the use of this wonderful space, Smith Tower Observatory Bar. This historic building is a reminder of the downtown we all know and love and look forward to returning to. As Monique said, it's also symbolic of the staying power this city has shown throughout its rich history. Last February, we packed into the Hyatt Regency for this annual event. At that time, we were in a position of celebrating downtown's remarkable growth as we closed out a decade of record jobs, a record number of people choosing to live and visit downtown, and record private and public investment. Now our downtown, like others across the country, is working to build back from an historic downturn. Record job loss, business closures, impacts to our wonderful arts and cultural institutions and workers, and the decimation of our once thriving hospitality and tourism industry. With the most challenging part of this pandemic hopefully behind us and positive developments on the vaccine front, the board leadership and staff of DSA are focused on what comes next and the critical work ahead. As the economic engine and cultural sports, entertainment hub for the city, entire region, the successful recovery of downtown is essential. That's why our theme for today's event is Recovery Starts Here. Here, in this place, and here within each of us. As we look to recovery, we're committed to a downtown that is more inclusive and equitable than the downtown of a year ago. One where more voices are involved and considered. one where more people have a chance to share in progress and prosperity, and one where everyone truly feels welcome and that they belong. This past year has brought the issue of equity and inclusion into sharp focus for our country, community, and for DSA. DSA has spent the past several months developing a DEI action plan that will help inform our internal and external work ahead, including our recovery plan and updates to our strategic plan. We've committed to diversifying our staff, our board leadership, member programming, and rooting our internal systems, practices, and processes in equity. Getting downtown back on its feet and reimagining future will require all of us to be working together. Our members are the heart of this organization. We could not do what we do without your support. If you're joining us today and you are not a member, we invite you to become part of this great community of business, arts, and nonprofit leaders who are passionate about this place. You can learn more about DSA membership by visiting our website, downtownseattle.org. Now, I'd like to recognize our generous event sponsors. First, thank you to our presenting visionary sponsor, Lane Powell. In a bit, you'll hear from Lane Powell President Barbara Duffy. This year, our State of Downtown Economic Report is sponsored by the Residences at Rainier Square. This report, which includes robust economic statistics and analysis from the past year, will be available on the DSA website and as a PDF after this event. Thanks to our entertainment sponsor, Selling Construction, for bringing us the Black Tones today. And once again, to our hospitality sponsors, Columbia Hospitality and Unico Properties. Thank you to our partner sponsors, Amazon, Heinz, Lease Crutcher Lewis, the Seattle Mariners, Seneca Group, and Vulcan Real Estate. Appreciation also goes out to all 15 of this year's steward sponsors for your contribution in helping us bring you this year's State of Downtown. Appreciation also to our media partner, the Puget Sound Business Journal. Thank you all for supporting the work of DSA and for being with us today. Now, I'm going to turn things back to Monique.
Thank you, Marilyn. It was roughly 11 months ago that our world really started to change, a series of events that altered cities across the country. And there are a plethora of needs to address in order for cities like Seattle to come back even stronger. Community health and safety is a critical component of recovery in downtown and neighborhood business districts across Seattle. Our city has wrestled with how to thoughtfully reimagine policing to eliminate violence against people of color and ensure community safety for all. Seattle's former police chief, Carmen Best, brings her local and national perspective to this issue.
The last year has been, without a doubt, full of challenges, not only nationally, but locally, certainly in the Seattle Police Department as well. We had the worst mass shooting, we had a pandemic, a series of demonstrations, the defund policing movement, the exodus of officers, and through all of that, the department is still standing. We still have people committed to safety and public safety in the city, and I absolutely believe that the future is going to be good. It's really critically important that we have those conversations about reform. Seattle led the nation in many ways on the reform efforts, and now we're looking to reimagine and re-envision to even further improve the policing in the city. Being engaged with the community, meeting community expectations, having some of the resources be community-based is really a way to move forward in a way that's more efficient, more effective. It helps build legitimacy and trust for the profession. Our police agency has often led the country in initiative and innovation, reimagining policing, a conversation that is happening elsewhere. It certainly started here in Seattle about how we can reconfigure policing, how we might work with other entities, other organizations, community-based organizations, public and private, to have others work on some of the issues that were formerly handled by police. So reimagining really means bringing a number of stakeholders together to figure out how to best and most effectively police the city. People feeling safe is really important and really critical to the vitality of a city. You want businesses to come to your city. They want to make sure that they can have their employees be safe and their customers be safe. People who reside in the city want to make sure that they can live in safe areas and safe neighborhoods. They won't come to the city, they won't move here if they feel like it's not a safe place, which means you lose customers, you lose opportunities for employment and opportunities for tourism. So all of that circles around in many ways, the feeling of safety and vitality in the city. We've had tough times before in this city in the 80s and the 90s, but the resilience and the drive and the energy of the people who live here, who reside here, who work here, I absolutely have hope for the future, and I absolutely believe that things are going to come out well. We all know that a thriving downtown is really the gem of the city. We have a great opportunity in Seattle. We just got to get through the rough times, and we will.
And the times have been rough for Seattle's once thriving arts and culture sector. Local nonprofit Arts Fund estimates that Puget Sound area arts organizations lost more than $135 million, and nearly 5,000 workers were furloughed or laid off. Galleries closed, venues went dark, performances went digital, and marquees offered messages of hope instead of concert lineups. Arts Fund CEO Michael Greer sets the stage for a comeback.
It feels incredibly strange to be in one of these venues that have been so vibrant for so long, and to know that it has been empty for so many months. The impact to our local arts and culture community has been absolutely devastating. There has been a loss of almost 80% of earned income within the industry, and that is income that has directly affecting our downtown businesses and the organizations that are doing business here. Seattle is a best-in-class city. When you think of Pacific Northwest Ballet, Seattle Symphony, Fifth Avenue, Seattle Museum, all of these organizations are based here in Seattle, but really have a national and international footprint. So a loss to this sector is a loss to part of what it means to be Seattle. We have seen that a number of the organizations, the large majority, have been able to move to some type of digital offering. But at the end of the day, these are organizations that thrive in these spaces. They thrive in the theaters, in their galleries, and in their community spaces. So until we can get these spaces open and running and at capacity again, that should be the main goal. I think that what is most inspiring about what we're seeing right now is the resilience and the persistence of a lot of these organizations that just refuse to quit offering what it is that they do to the sector. Arts and culture has historically been a way for people to express hope in times of trouble. And a lot of the murals and a lot of the street art that we saw, not only through the pandemic, but particularly throughout the Black Lives Matter movement, are a testament to that. And art has taken that place, has held that place for literally hundreds, if not thousands of years. And so it's inspiring to see that it continues to have that role in our communities today. What we are seeing in the industry moving forward, there's two major themes. One is that digital will continue to play a role in the way that our arts and culture organization engages with their communities. And two, we're seeing a larger amount of collaboration between organizations across our community. And that's a good thing, because if we are able to be more efficient and take advantage of some of the economies of scale, we're going to have a stronger and more resilient sector in the future.
Patrons of the arts were not making a weekend of it in 2020. Leisure and business travel screeched to a halt. Hotel occupancy fell to single digits in the typically packed summer season. And the lack of cruises in 2020 left a $900 million crater in the local economy. But as Visit Seattle President and CEO Tom Norwalk explains, The fundamentals remain in place for this city to reclaim its standing as a travel and meeting and convention magnet moving forward.
It was tragic, it was immediate, and it was almost overnight. We went from a city that was running typically 80% occupancies, and we've struggled now to even get to 20%. So it was immediate, and it was felt by every sector, every business, and every part of our industry. From SeaTac Airport to the waterfront attractions, everybody has felt those 80 to 90% declines in either attendance or revenues consistently since March. When you take travel and tourism out of an economy and out of a vibrant downtown, the ripple effect to arts and cultural institutions, the effect of restaurants, of airlines, cruise lines, it was broad and it was felt everywhere. 80% of businesses that we engage with that are part of the tourism landscape are small business. And so it's a huge driver for everything, for job growth especially, for keeping people employed and generating tax dollars. That decade of travel that we concluded in 2019 that continued to grow every year, all of those fundamentals are really in place for the future. International business, technology hub, everything that we hold so dear and close while we live and work here is still there. But we just need to take our time and get healthy and then promote it to the rest of the country and the world. International travel's kind of off the books for a while, so leisure business is really going to be our focus. And it's going to be local, regional, as it is safe to do so. And then we will expand, and we need to get that Canadian border open. We need to look at markets, West Coast fly markets that have always been our number one demographic for people visiting this region. But we know it's going to take some time, and I think this time more than ever, we're going to need to earn every bit of that recovery. We're going to have to work hard and compete hard to get this city back on the map from a travel standpoint. We've got some serious concerns with convention planners, organizers, travel buyers, international visitors about the perception of the city. And perceived or real, perception is really everything. And safety in the city, the vitality of the city is really a concern right now. And people are thinking by 2022, late 22, we'll see larger meetings happening. In 23, we think we'll see a return to pre-COVID levels for domestic leisure travel. And certainly then in 23 and 24, our international markets we think will be strong again. So we have every belief that the city, as resilient as we are and always have been, is going to be back.
Resilience will bring the city back. Already there are signs. Despite historically low foot traffic downtown, DSA estimates nearly 90 businesses opened new storefronts in downtown in 2020, but more than 160 were forced to permanently close their doors. It's an understatement to say that brick and mortar retail has had to pivot during the pandemic, scaling back in-store capacity, utilizing curbside pickup, and changing the physical layout. There have been many adjustments to an industry that faced pressures and change even prior to the pandemic. Nordstrom president of stores, Jamie Nordstrom, tells us how the Seattle-based retail giant has weathered the storm and is betting big on Store One, the downtown Seattle flagship, and the value of in-person retail experience.
Customers come from literally around the world to see this store, and so we put a lot of energy into it, and we're pretty proud of it. The in-store experience has changed a lot. Clearly, people are looking for a safer experience. They're focused on safety. They're focused on convenience. It requires us to find new ways to serve customers, but we've got a great team here. They've been focused since day one of this pandemic on how to come through for customers, and we've had some great feedback from customers on how our people have risen to the challenge, and I think we've been able to make a lot of people happy these last 9 months. We're really excited about the future of Store One in downtown Seattle. Clearly, we're in some challenging times right now, but we feel a deep commitment to be part of the solution. We feel accountable for doing our part to make sure this downtown Seattle continues to prosper, and it's fragile. It needs care and feeding, and we recognize that we have a role to play in that, and my family and our entire team really committed to being part of that. As I look at downtowns across America, we have a lot of businesses, a lot of stores in those places. There's very few that can match Seattle. We have a lot of stores in a lot of urban locations around the country, and what makes those urban locations, those downtowns great are those unique small businesses, those restaurants, those boutiques. We need those businesses to be thriving. And so we want to be super supportive of that and make sure that the things that we're doing in our business set the stage for people to want to come and open a business in a place like this. We need to make sure that people feel safe and comfortable downtown Seattle, walking down the sidewalk. We've got some challenges that we need to work on that. And we need to get all these businesses back open, the restaurants, the shops. And I think if we focus on those three things, then we're going to get right back to where we were here pretty quick. I'm extremely bullish on the future of downtown Seattle. You know, I've been here my whole life. I've worked in downtown Seattle for the better part of the last 30 years. I feel a deep sense of responsibility to be a leader, and our whole team does as well. Maybe I'm biased, but I can't think of very many places in North America that have the ability to come back from this even stronger than from before. But again, it's going to take some work, and it's going to take a lot of effort from a lot of people to come together to make that happen.
We'll talk about being bullish. It seems every Seattle sports fan is. The teams here are known for cultivating rabid fans that create enormous home field advantage. They can turn an entire city blue and set the league standards for noise, energy, and enthusiasm. Now, Seattle is one of the few markets where you can find the professional sports venues in the heart of the city. Downtown's newest addition is scheduled for completion this fall. Climate Pledge Arena will bring the NHL to Seattle. And it's more than that. Kraken CEO Todd Leiweke explains how the franchise and the arena usher in a new era for the city.
Seattle's such an incredible sports town. Best fans in the entire world live here in Seattle, proven by their support of all the other teams, whether it be the Mariners, the Storm, the Seahawks, or the Sounders. And we're next, and the fans' support has been secondary to none. We know that sports can be a huge unifier of community, and we can't wait to drop the puck because we're going to do our part. March 1st, 2018, 32,000 people said I'm in. Today, our games are sold out, and it's our turn to perform for these fans. We're going to put a great team on the ice, but we're also going to give back and make a real difference in this community. We chartered the organization to be diverse, and today the results are very encouraging. 43% of our staff represent gender diversity, and 23% of our staff represent racial diversity, and we're not done. We've got some exciting announcements coming up, but because of this diversity, I can tell you firsthand, we're a substantially better organization. We're big dreamers. This building gives us a chance to really dream. This city deserves this building. It deserves a world-class building, and that's what we're going to deliver this fall. The first zero-carbon arena in the world, measured every game, every event, every year. We couldn't be more proud of what we're going to bring to the community. Not only sold-out hockey games, but brilliant music, and it's about time. And someday, the NBA will return. One of the things we're really excited about is the impact we're going to have on the neighborhoods, the restaurants, the bars, other resident organizations on the campus, to tell people it's okay to come back. And in fact, this campus, this Seattle Center, is new and substantially improved with the arrival of this arena. Our friends right across the way at the Pacific Science Center are going to host an incredible exhibition on hockey, taking this beautiful game and stating it in scientific terms. We couldn't be more excited, and we're going to do our best for our community. Our community needs what we're going to bring, and we're going to give it everything we have. We care deeply about our community, and I'm one that believes that our best days could very well be in front of us. With the arrival of Sound Transit, a complete remake of our waterfront, the arrival of this arena, this team, and perhaps an NBA team in the not-too-distant future. Hope is on the horizon. Our best days should be in front of us. If we can unite around common ideas that bond us, we look forward to playing our part, and we will.
Best days are in front of us after some very tough ones. Seattle was the first U.S. city to really feel the weight of what was to come. A swift and acute economic crisis, a public health emergency, a racial and social justice reckoning. And our cities are working to recover, renew, and respond. Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan hired former Urban League President and CEO Pamela Banks to be the city's Director of Recovery and Equitable Investments. And as you'll hear from them both, the hard work has begun in Seattle.
I told Mayor Durkin I look at the downtown as a pond, and we're going to take a pebble and we're going to drop that pebble in that pond, and it's going to have a ripple effect. And all the success that we do in the downtown core will ripple out into the community and neighborhood business districts.
This has been a crushing event for our city, but it's also an opportunity, and I think Seattle will seize that opportunity. Building back means really finding ways to support those small business owners so that we can have this economy that has the greatest employers, the greatest workers, and a vibrant downtown that reflects that. But a healthy city and a healthy downtown means we've got to address some of the problems we had before. We need more affordable housing. We need more access to the great innovation economy, and we need to close the disparities.
$100 million community investment fund, that's a start to address equity. Economics is huge, and there's such economic inequality in our city, and in order to address that, part of this fund is going to focus on Black and Indigenous and communities of color. It's equitable. Recovery, reopening, and revitalization for the downtown core.
The door to recovery goes through vaccines. We want to be the first city in America to get all of our folks vaccinated. We've got a structure in place, we have firefighters ready to go, we just need more vaccine. But once we can do that, we can start to open and recover downtown.
We want to ensure that people that they're safe, number one, they feel comfortable coming downtown, and that we jumpstart the economy.
We have to come back better, and this gives us the opportunity to make sure that our downtown reflects our city. Have those small businesses owned and operated by the communities that had not been downtown. Make it a downtown for everyone.
Because we will have a lot of vacant office, commercial, and retail space, we look at the city and doing some different things with zoning and allowing different kinds of uses in those spaces, and we can get very creative around that. And again, we can pull in our communities of color and address those issues. Temporary art galleries, perhaps, or work-live spaces, those are the kind of opportunities that we can have temporarily in order to jumpstart our economy.
We have to deliver on these bold private partnerships that we've got. The new arena, which will have the Kraken, the Seattle Storm, a 30-acre park on the waterfront, a new convention center. Working together, we can recover, but we all have to work together.
You may be working at Amazon, or you may be a hotel worker, but we are all interconnected and interrelated, therefore interdependent. And that unity is what's going to bring the vibrancy and the recovery and revitalization back to downtown and spread out into our neighborhoods and across Seattle.
A healthy city has to have a healthy heart. And downtown is the heart of Seattle. It's not just our economic engine, it's what defines us. It's why people come here. Downtown recovery is going to be critical to the whole city recovering. And it also is going to show the world that Seattle can get it right. We can come back better, stronger, and more equitable. We learned the lessons of this last year, and we're going to show the world that we can incorporate that into our recovery.
You've heard from a number of community and business leaders about recovery and moving forward. Many additional voices and perspectives will be needed to ensure that all are included in the recovery process. And it starts here in downtown Seattle, and it starts with DSA. DSA will be working with noted designer and strategist Surya Vanka and other strategy experts on a plan to reimagine a more resilient and inclusive downtown.
We have a city that's got a deep reservoir of creative talent that comes from so many different places. It comes from tech, it comes from the arts, it comes from ordinary citizens. And so we really need to tap into everybody's creativity. Not only do we have a lot of talent, but we have people with a lot of different kind of needs. And as we transform our city, as we make the city something that is even stronger than it was before, even more resilient than it was before, we really need to make sure nobody's left behind, that we need to serve everybody's needs, and we need to make sure that all voices come together and are heard and participate in this process of recovery. When we really serve the needs of those folks who might be overlooked, typically we make solutions that are stronger for everybody. For example, in Mexico City, after the last earthquake, this practice was used with citizens, ordinary citizens, to be able to come up with solutions to to recover from natural disasters. And we've done this in Melbourne and Australia, where we've looked at issues around homelessness and rejuvenating the city. The creativity of ordinary citizens coming together and reimagining their cities. This is not something that the public sector, the government, can do by itself. We're all in this together. This requires everybody. This is a once-in-a-lifetime challenge and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And it takes all of us coming together as private citizens, coming together and really taking charge of our city to be able to bring our collective creativity, to be able to transform our city to what we want it to be as we come out of the pandemic. My hope for Seattle coming out of this pandemic, and my strong belief, is that Seattle is going to become a world capital.
And we'll discuss Seattle as a world capital in just a moment. But first, here's Lane Powell President Barbara Duffy.
Thank you, Monique. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Barbara Duffy, the president of Lane Powell. And we could not be more pleased to once again serve as the visionary sponsor of DSA's State of Downtown. Throughout the program, we've heard local business and community leaders noting the difficult realities and challenges we face during these extraordinary times. We are clear-eyed about our circumstances and the unpredictable but hopeful path to our recovery for our community and businesses alike. We are also keenly aware of how important DSA is to ensuring we have leadership to carefully guide us as we move forward in partnership with our public officials. Downtown is the heart of so many cities in which people of diverse backgrounds and experiences create a vibrant mix of ideas and cultures. The energy is palpable and it's inspiring. DSA and its members understand the essential relationship between downtown and our city. When our downtown thrives, our city and those who live and work in it can flourish. DSA knows that a vibrant downtown does not just happen. It takes collaboration, strategy, thoughtful planning, and a constructive partnership with city officials and private stakeholders of all sorts. It takes hard work and resilience. As you've heard from Mayor Durkin, Pamela Banks, and Marilyn Boss, our path forward must be paved with resolute devotion to furthering diversity, equity, and inclusion within our communities. Only upon that foundation can we achieve the vibrant, thriving community that we seek. And as you've heard, it is fitting that we're coming to you today from the Smith Tower, a great symbol of Seattle's history and resilience, a constant through monumental changes in our city and our world. Like the Smith Tower, my firm, Lane Powell, has persevered through momentous changes in our city. Our firm was founded in 1875, decades before the Smith Tower was built. We know full well that our respected brand and longevity does not just happen, but requires unfailing commitment to sound strategy, collaboration, and thoughtful planning. Like DSA at Lane Powell, we know that our path forward must be paved with unfaltering commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. One where diverse and exceptional teams are devoted to maximizing value for our clients while strengthening our bonds to each other and to the cities where we live and we work. We do this by sharing a relentless client focus that allows us to understand our clients, their businesses, and their industries, while we work to advance their strategic objectives and we solve their problems. Our roots to this downtown, to Seattle, are sturdy and they're deep. Like DSA, we are committed to seizing upon the opportunities presented in these current times, rising to the challenges, and making our downtown and the DSA membership stronger still. Achieving such audacious goals requires exceptional leadership, and at DSA we have that. The leadership of DSA and its board gives us reason for optimism and gives us confidence that we will get this right. Leading the way for DSA is its president and CEO, John Scholes. Up next, John will be joined by Monique in an important conversation about the future of cities like ours. Please welcome John and Monique.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Huge challenges, also huge opportunities. John, let's start with the challenges first of all, and take us back to March before all of the windows were boarded up, and talk a little bit about how you knew something really kind of profound was happening.
Well, first, thank you, Monique, for emceeing today's event and your involvement with us in this year's State of Downtown. I go back to March 5th. It was the day that tens of thousands of workers in downtown Seattle began working from home. And in many respects, it was a beautiful day and a devastating day. Beautiful in the sense that we were coming together as a community to fight this pandemic, to make a decision to work from home, which was a decision that many employers, it wasn't part of their culture before, but they instantly made that decision in consultation with public health officials. But the impacts economically were devastating and were immediate, felt with empty restaurants and cafes and bars, empty hotel lobbies, the streets and sidewalks got quiet. And we had nowhere else to look in this country as a downtown to understand what was going to happen next. We were the first US downtown, the first downtown in North America to feel the effects of this pandemic. And it reinforced how fragile our downtowns are, that we can't take anything for granted. We had a lot going for us, but we were instantly impacted across sectors. And I think we really have to hold up the decisions of private employers working in concert with public health officials. Those decisions that were made in a matter of days to order their workforce to work from home, no doubt saved hundreds, if not thousands of lives. And this was before there were closures, there were still events happening. This was really our first move as a community to protect our healthcare system, to protect healthcare workers and each other. And it had a significant impact, I believe, on our early days in that pandemic.
Clearly, we have a lot of tech giants in this area. They were able to be resilient, do their work from home, but we saw the ripple effect for all the businesses that have to rely on them, the restaurants and so forth that you're talking about. And we just heard Pamela Banks talking about how she wants to see downtown as kind of this pond, and we're going to throw these pebbles of recovery and have this ripple effect. Can you talk a little bit about how downtown needs to be the hub of that recovery?
Every great city has a healthy downtown. I haven't been to a great city where the urban core, the center of the city is not healthy and thriving. Downtowns are the place we come together to create and to innovate. It shapes a city and region's brand and identity. It's where our history and art and culture is rooted. So what happens here on these 3 square miles of land in a city of 82 square miles is not just important to this location, but has ripple effect throughout the city and throughout the region. Half the city's jobs are located in downtown Seattle. So the impact to particularly our hospitality sector and arts and culture, and those folks that take those paychecks home to other neighborhoods throughout the city of Seattle, throughout the region, throughout King, Pierce, Snohomish County, and Kitsap County. Those are paychecks that aren't being spent in those communities that are having an impact on the kitchen tables in those neighborhoods. So a downtown has so much importance for an entire city, an entire region. The tax revenue, the brand identity, so important. So recovery really does need to start here. We need to focus on the center of our city and getting it humming again.
A lot of people today have been talking about how so many different perspectives and voices need to be brought into this to have a thoughtful recovery. But this happens so quickly, and the recovery has to happen fairly quickly too, I would imagine. What happens if it doesn't keep up the proper pace?
There's a lot at stake here. You know, we've made decisions as a community here in Seattle, voter-approved measures to invest in families and education, to invest in low-income housing, to invest in a great park system, expanding our light rail, universal pre-K. We've made those decisions and those investments betting on a healthy, thriving downtown and center of our city that is an economic engine and a driver. So there's a lot at stake with the quality of life, the infrastructure, the services for our entire city. And so we've got to focus on downtown. We've got to get our economy reopened and get this place going again. And it has implications for our entire region.
As you mentioned, there was no map for this. There was no rule book for how do you respond to this pandemic, let alone the recovery coming afterwards. How well positioned do you think Seattle is to actually lead the way with recovery?
We have incredible assets. If you look at the foundation and the base that we're building back from today versus previous recessions, whether it was the Great Recession or the Boeing bust or going back even further, the foundation and the number of assets that we have in place as a downtown is incredibly strong. And we've got significant investments that are underway and taking place. The arena has been mentioned, the waterfront, expansion of light rail. I'd rather be in Seattle with our assets rebuilding after this pandemic than just about any other downtown. But there's a lot at stake, and this is not going to be easy, and we're going to be competing with every other city and every other urban area in North America and around the world that is facing a similar set of challenges. I mean, this pandemic has had a disproportionate impact on downtowns because we're all about bringing people together. In a pandemic, we're told to stay apart, and that's the right thing to do to flatten that curve. So we're going to be competing with cities around the world to get back on our feet, competing for leisure travel, for events, for investment, for small business recovery, for major employers, for bringing a workforce back. So this is not going to be easy. And people have more choice and more information in this time we live in than ever before. Whether you're an employer looking at where you want to open or expand, whether you're a small business looking at where you want to plant your capital and open your storefront, whether you're a meeting planner looking at where you're going to hold your next convention. So we have so much at stake. We're going to enter an incredibly competitive environment with other cities. And we have a lot of assets, thankfully, but we can take nothing for granted. We need to be working together, the private sector and the public sector, to get our downtown going again.
Collaboration, community, you hear that over and over again, that we have to come together as a community in order to rebuild together. These are contentious times. I mean, not just on a national picture, but even down into our communities. And we've seen people splitting on ideas of how to react to the pandemic, whether it's how quickly you go back to school, how quickly you get back onto transportation, a number of things. So given those challenges, what are the signs that you see that there is that collaboration already in the works, that there's the openness to coming together and figuring this out?
Well, we have a good model to build on, and that's the model and recipe we've used as a community to fight this pandemic. The public sector and the private sector and the community working together, working off the facts, off data, science, to do the things we know that are going to work, to drive down the curve, to stop the spread of coronavirus, to protect our healthcare system. We've outpaced just about every other metro area in the country when it comes to minimizing the cases and deaths from coronavirus within our own community. So we know the playbook. It's collaboration, it's making decisions based on facts, accepting the reality that we face. And so we need to apply that same approach to recovery and to some of the tough, difficult issues facing Seattle. We need the private sector and the public sector working together. Whenever we've been down on our backs as a city or faced great opportunities like bringing the World's Fair here or saying, no, we don't want to rebuild a big new highway on the waterfront, we see a different vision for our city, and that's a great waterfront park. Or when we face the threat of the retail core collapsing in the mid-1990s. The recipe on each of those opportunities and challenges was the private sector and the public sector working together, business leaders and City Hall working together. That is the only way we are going to get our city back, get our downtown back, our neighborhood business districts, the art and culture community, tourism, small business. That's the formula, and we have some work to do there. The last year, when it comes to the public health initiatives and fighting this pandemic, we've done well there. On other issues, not so well. And I think we need to recommit to unity, collaboration, partnership if we are going to fuel this recovery here in Seattle.
Speaking of some of those other issues, the pandemic clearly introduced issues that we weren't thinking of just a year ago. But some of the issues, some of the challenges that downtown especially faces right now with homelessness, with drug use, with mental health issues, and many other things, especially safety, those were issues, those were challenges that were identified a year ago. So what has changed, and is there new opportunity now to tackle those issues?
You're absolutely right. We came into this pandemic with some significant challenges as a city and as a downtown. In many ways, this pandemic has made those worse and has exacerbated them. And right now, we have a parallel pandemic on our hands when it comes to chronic homelessness in the city of Seattle and the human crisis, the public health crisis that we have out on our streets. We had nearly as many people die from drug overdoses in the city of Seattle last year as died from coronavirus. We have 10,000 calls a year to 911 because people in our community are having a mental health crisis. So we have this parallel pandemic, this parallel public health crisis that will not go away with a vaccine. It is going to be with us even as we get vaccinated to guard against coronavirus. We need to approach this in the same way that we fought this pandemic, with a great sense of urgency, acknowledge the emergency that it is, acknowledge the human suffering that is taking place across the park system in Seattle, on our sidewalks, in our alleys, acknowledge that there's too many of our neighbors that are dealing with substance use and mental health challenges, resulting in them having nowhere to turn but that cold, dark sidewalk or the cold, dark park. We have to recommit and broaden our strategy, broaden the set of tools, and really treat this as the emergency that it is. I think if we don't, it's going to slow us down in recovery. We're going to continue to spend money but not get the results that we want. And most importantly, we're putting lots of people's lives and health at risk. So we need to treat this situation, this challenge that we entered the pandemic with, that has only gotten worse because of coronavirus and some of the challenges from that on the homeless community, like the emergency and public health crisis that it is.
Do you think that the reality of this situation right now is maybe stripping back any reluctance to acknowledge that the problems are there?
Well, I think the policy that has sort of been in place of leaving people where they are is not the right one. We need to meet people where they are with the services that they need, which right now, in many of the parts of our city, whether it's a park or a sidewalk or an alley, it's treatment and it's emergency housing that's safer and healthier than a tent and the corner of a park. We can do better than that as a city, and we need to commit at a much higher level with a greater sense of urgency to meet this crisis. Call it what it is. It's an emergency. We declared it 5 years ago, but we need to act like it's one. And we can do that as a community. We can come together, private sector, public sector, philanthropy, around an action plan to address chronic homelessness in the city of Seattle.
A year ago, we wouldn't have predicted that we'd be sitting here having this particular conversation in the middle of a pandemic. But I'm going to ask you to look ahead for 1 year. And what do you predict you'll be talking about in 1 year?
I'm optimistic about our ability as a city to really lead the way nationally in recovery, just as we led the way in fighting the pandemic. We can take that same recipe, the same ingredients, the same approach, working collaboratively to have Seattle be one of the first cities to recover and our downtown to be at the top of the list of downtowns that are getting their economic engine going again. We have an incredible residential population in downtown. That's a big asset, more than 80,000 people that live here. That's a huge cushion to the small businesses and others that are open. And our real opportunities in the next 6 months are around office workers, 350,000 jobs in downtown. Now the office is going to get recalibrated, but it's not going to go away. It's going to play an important role in work over many, many decades to come. It is not dead by any means. And we have a huge opportunity around domestic leisure travel. As Tom Norwalk with Visit Seattle noted, we can compete for that business. So leisure travel and getting in downtown workers back in their offices at some level, we know it's going to be gradually over the summer. Those are huge opportunities to really help support our small business community, our arts and cultural community that's going to be reopening as we get deeper into the summer and fall. And to reintroduce regional residents of Seattle that may not work downtown, but we're visiting downtown, enjoying downtown, taking in downtown before this pandemic. Many of whom may have not been here for the better part of a year, whether it's going to art and cultural events or seeing live music or taking in sports, going to the market. These are things you can't do virtually. These are things you can't do in other neighborhoods. That's what downtown offers. It's that experience you can't get anywhere else. And I believe we're all craving those urban city experiences with our friends, with our colleagues, with our loved ones. We want to get back to that. So reintroducing downtown to our region and to the city of Seattle and residents in the city is a great opportunity for us.
Yeah, wherever there is a challenge, there is also then a new opportunity. And when you're talking about offices and businesses reimagining kind of their workspaces, what new opportunities does that open up?
Like I said, there is going to be some recalibration in this. I think what we know from national research is there's a small minority of people who say, I want to work from home 5 days a week. And there's a small minority of people who say, I want to be back in the office 5 days a week. Most of us are saying we want that flexibility. So the office is still going to have an incredibly important role in work, but it's going to be recalibrated. And I think there's opportunities there for downtown. Downtowns have always been the places that can adapt. Our buildings change uses from decade to centuries. An office building that maybe then becomes a hotel, or a residential building that becomes an office. Downtowns have been adapting for decades and centuries. It's one of their strengths. And I think we will see further adaptation from this pandemic. There's no doubt. But we have an opportunity to not just reopen, but to reimagine, rethink, and renew our downtown. We ought to take that opportunity in this crisis where we've had so much disruption. More than 160 businesses have had to close their doors in downtown. Those are brick and mortar retail and restaurants mainly. So we're going to have some vacancy at the ground level, no doubt. That gives us an opportunity to think about how do we invite folks in that haven't been able to participate in our downtown before. New ideas, new folks that can come with their own innovation and take a risk and celebrate those new endeavors. We're going to have a lot of new investment, new business, new experiences in downtown that didn't exist prior to this pandemic. And we ought to hold those up and really embrace this opportunity, not just to reopen, but to rethink and renew.
So you're talking about some restructuring and new opportunities for downtown. How will that change the mix of what we'll see downtown?
I think we have an obligation in any crisis to really look for opportunities and to not just think about reopening as it was back in February, but to rethink and reimagine and invite more voices into this recovery process and into our downtown. And I think the downtowns that are able to position themselves where everybody feels like they belong and they see opportunity in that place, no matter whether you live in the heart of the city or other parts of the region, I think are going to be the downtowns that are most successful, most dynamic, and most durable and equitable as we look forward. And that's our opportunity in Seattle, is to invite all those voices in that maybe didn't have a seat at the table before, to create opportunity for new small business owners, new artists, folks with ideas and innovation to come in. And the downtowns that do that well, I think, are going to compete the best in the 21st century. That's our opportunity here in downtown Seattle. I think we can lead the pack.
Where everything comes together.
Yeah, and the great downtowns should be everybody's neighborhood. Everybody should feel like, that's my neighborhood. And when I go there, I feel like I belong and I feel like I've got opportunity.
Clearly, you have a lot of faith and enthusiasm for the future. So do many of the people who spoke today. For all these folks who are watching right now, so many people are invested in this downtown. What can they do to contribute to that vision?
Come downtown. Really, I mean, come downtown. There's things that are open as we get deeper into these vaccination phases. We expect more to be open, and those experiences that we haven't been able to have for so long are going to be there waiting for us. But come downtown, and we need to really, I think, embrace this mentality of buy local, think local, do local. Whether you're a big employer thinking about where to hold meetings or events in the months and years to come, let's have them here in Seattle. or whether you're a family looking for where to have that celebration. Come have them in downtown Seattle. We need to be spending our time and money in our own community to help our small businesses, help artists, arts and cultural organizations, those great civic institutions like the Pike Place Market. Let's think local, buy local, be local. And that's how we as individuals can help our community, our downtown, and our city get back on its feet.
And all invest in the future.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, that's an exciting vision for recovery and how everyone can participate. Now, one other thing that you can do, look in your email box. You will see a survey there. Go ahead and fill that out about this 2021 State of Downtown. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to head back to the Crocodile with the Black Tones, and also remember that recovery starts here.